Hi everyone. So the reason I'm basically trying to do this video is because I have written a lot in my blog around, how to settle down in Canada and what are the basic things that one needs to take care of while trying to settle down here. The reason for this video is because it will enable me to express it more clearly in terms of what one should be doing while trying to settle down in Canada. So let's assume that you have already received your COPR landing papers and you're all set to fly down to Canada. Some of the key things you would have to decide before you even move in here is basically which city you want to probably move in. So if you're an immigrant trying to look for, I mean, like obviously you would be looking for jobs. The city which I would recommend is Toronto. I would still stick to Toronto and not any other city is because obviously Canada has the following major cities like Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, and Montreal. Basically these are the four major cities where most of the jobs are. Now if I want to rule out few cities, it would be basically Montreal initially, because obviously if you don't know French, Montreal is very difficult to settle down. Then comes Vancouver. The number of jobs in Vancouver is quite less compared to Toronto. Let's be honest, like the cost of living in Vancouver is pretty high, and obviously there are not a lot of jobs in Vancouver. I mean, like it's obviously much more than smaller Canadian cities, but if you compare it to Toronto, number of jobs is quite lesser. Now coming to Calgary, Calgary at one point was really good in terms of jobs. There were a lot of new immigrants going to Calgary because of the oil economy over there, and the oil market was booming at that time. But everyone knows like oil has gone down, and it doesn't seem like it is again going to go up in terms of price for at least some time. So a lot of people are getting laid off even in Calgary, and the jobs are not there basically. So that leaves us with pretty much Ottawa is again a smaller city, so that not really great in terms of jobs. So it ultimately boils down to Toronto. Honestly, Canada just has Toronto, and it looks really big in the map, like in terms of size. It's compared with it's much bigger than US, but in terms of jobs, it's like it is difficult in Canada. Like there are not a lot of jobs. Basically, the most of the jobs are in IT and finance. So that brings me to the next discussion. Basically, that is in terms of jobs. If you are in IT or finance, obviously the opportunities are much more. The reason I'm saying that is because I myself work in finance. That is, I'm more on IT finance side, wherein I'm working as a project manager, business analyst, and working on different projects. But having said that, the IT and finance market has a lot of contracting work if you're good, and the experience from India or any other country for that matter will carry a lot of weight. I mean, like weight in the sense like you would be at least IT skills are more transferable, and there is a lot more demand because the local supply is not that much. So I would say that if you're in IT or finance, getting jobs should not be difficult. Once you start networking and once you know people, it's going to be a lot more lucrative in terms of finding jobs. And also, you can always find contractual opportunities, if not full-time opportunities, right? So that's why I would say that if you're from IT or finance, it's not that difficult. I mean, like it is still going to be difficult. That is because you have to look for jobs, and looking out for jobs as a new immigrant is not easy because you don't know how to go about it. Like whom should you meet? And the job market in Canada is quite different. Like the traditional way of applying online for job postings and creating a lot of resumes doesn't really help. In Canada, what works is networking. Like one has to network, one has to know people. And how do you know people? Like it's through contacts. Let's say you know someone, you try to get introduced to someone, and that's how you build your chain. LinkedIn is a great resource to start with. Like you should definitely have a LinkedIn profile in which you would be basically networking with people, and going about looking out for opportunities in terms of having coffee chats, or trying to build relationships. That's what is going to take you along here in Canada. So that's the number one point I wanted to make, that if you're in ID or finance, definitely a good choice. I mean, like, it's not going to be a problem. Now, coming to other professions, I'm not really sure about other professions in the sense because I don't work in that profession. But other professions definitely have a little bit of tougher time because there are not a lot of jobs, to be honest. Like, it's a little difficult, but people try to make their way out and try to change careers. So, that's another problem. Like, if a problem in the sense you have to make sure that you're more flexible and agile and you're able to, move around in your careers. Like, you definitely need to have a plan here. Like, if you're not from any of these two professions, what are you going to do? How are you going to find a job? And start networking right over there in your home country. So that is about job search. Now, coming to which part of Toronto you should be probably, living. Basically, that's a big question that everyone, you know, tries to find out, like from their home country, that where should one be living. And when living in home, when living in another country, you exactly don't know that which should be the best location, what you should be doing about it. And I would say that since Toronto is the place where maximum number of jobs are there, Toronto has the place is called Greater Toronto Area, with Toronto being in the center, city of Toronto. On the west, it's Mississauga, and on the northwest, it's basically Brampton. So that's on the west side. That is, Mississauga and Brampton are on the west. Uh, just between Mississauga and Toronto, we have Etobicoke, which has access to Mississauga Transit as well as TTC, which is one of the, what do you call, more favorable places. Like, a lot of immigrants actually prefer that place because of proximity to Mississauga as well as um, Toronto. And the reason why Mississauga is so popular is because obviously it has become like more of an immigrants hub, where there are a lot of people from South Asia who live there, and it has a lot of Indian grocery stores and South Asian grocery stores. So that's why Mississauga has become popular. But having said that, the population of Mississauga has gone up a lot as well. Same goes with Brampton. The reason that is popular is because of South Asians and a lot of people coming in. I personally don't live on the west side. I live on the east side. So on the east side you have Scarborough immediately, which is almost like it's part of city of Toronto, because it is still covered by Toronto Transit Commission. And on the north part of Toronto, you have the York region, which comprises of Richmond Hill and Markham. Those two are again, like, I would say, medium to less popular amongst immigrants, because obviously it's expensive to live in Markham, but still, it's not a bad place. It's pretty good, and it's like pretty commutable as well from downtown, but it's going to take time. So that's the west, the eastern part of Toronto. And obviously further east is your Durham region, that is Pickering, Ajax, and Whitby, Oshawa. Those are the places. So now, if you are a new immigrant and you have to live in a certain place, I would recommend either Etobicoke, or you go right into city of Toronto, that is North York, or some of those places like North York, East York, which is basically Township Park Drive, which is preferred by people coming from Pakistan and other countries, which is very popular. Like, you can live in those places, which is pretty close to downtown Toronto. So in terms of living, you can choose in these places. One is Etobicoke, one is North York, and or East York. These are the places I would say that you should be staying as a new immigrant. The reason I'm not suggesting downtown core is because it gets really expensive over there. The renting is pretty expensive, and that's the reason why I'm not suggesting that place. So if you're a new immigrant, you can either stick to these places, or if you want to go and stay in Mississauga, you can still do that. But remember, it's going to be a lot more difficult in terms of commuting or finding a job, because obviously you are not in city of Toronto. You will be spending on Mississauga Transit, or you would be buying a GTA pass, which is like $48 a week, or now it's like 52 or 54. I don't know. Like, I have not been traveling I've never taken a pass for past 5 years. So I travel to Go Transit, and that's why I don't know the exact fare, but it's pretty expensive. For a new immigrant, it is going to be a lot more expensive. So that's the reason why I would suggest that you know, stay in Etobicoke, North York, or East York, where your proximity to Toronto is a lot more easier. So that's about the place to live, and I also covered about the job part. And in terms of rent, and in terms of how much money you need to bring in, I would suggest that for you bring in at least 6 months, minimum 6 months worth of money plus a buffer of $10,000. For a family, let's say that there are like four people in the family. I'm just assuming, like, or the rent is going to be for two-bedroom on an average up to $1,500. 1,200 to 1,500 is what, depending on where you live. If you live in a condominium, it's going to be much more. If you live in an apartment, the difference between apartment and condominium is condominium has an air conditioner, it has a fitness center, everything is inbuilt. It's a little more luxurious. Apartment, on the flip side, does not have an air conditioner. It's less luxurious, and obviously the rent is going to be lesser. So you can assume around the rent of $1,200 to $1,500. For groceries, you can assume another $500, which is $1,700. For your cell phones, for your internet, your other miscellaneous expenses, another 300 to 400, or maybe even more. So assume around like $2,500 per month for a family of four with a bare minimum expense, without car, without insurance, without anything. So that's the minimum amount of expenses you would need. So multiply that by 6 months, which will take you to $18,000. So you will need $18,000 plus bring in a buffer of $10,000. Maybe take it up to $25,000 to be safe. Like, make sure that you are covered for next 6 months, so that you don't have to compromise on your living, and you can do your job search. So that's why I would recommend for family of four immigrants, like, you should come with at least $25,000. And and in terms of like, in terms of the living in Canada itself, Canada is a great country. I would say Canada is definitely one of the best countries to live. But I would say that manage your expectations in a fair way, that so that you're not disappointed after coming here. I don't. I mean, like, we all expect a lot, like, in terms of living, like it's going to be, luxurious living. No, that's not the way it is going to be. It's going to be definitely difficult, and it's going to be a lot of struggle before you actually think about establishing yourself in this country. And like, I would say that give your best out here, and if for some reason things don't work out, always keep an option of going back. I mean, that's what some people don't do, and they still compromise in their career, and they still go. Give yourself like 1 or 2 years time and see how you're doing. And if things don't work out, there is always an option to go back. I know it's very easy to say, but having said that, my story is different too. So that's what I would suggest. So, I just thought of posting this blog so that I could be of help to anyone who is trying to immigrate to Canada. If you find this interesting, definitely, like, leave me a comment or a message, and I'll try to post. And also, like, I would like to hear from you guys in terms of what other information you would want, and I would be definitely more than happy to help you out. So, thank you thank you for watching my video, and have a pleasant day. Thank you. Bye.